Welcome to the Global Focus Review channel. It is highly likely that you are familiar with the well-known biblical figures, Adam and Eve, and their captivating story, which encompasses their fall from grace, the presence of sin, the lives of their children, and the subsequent generations that followed. However, in recent times, a question has been frequently posed. What language did Adam communicate with Eve, their offspring, and their descendants? This thought-provoking video has been created to delve into this topic and shed light on this intriguing question. We kindly request you to show your support by leaving your likes, comments, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this video with others who may also share the same curiosity. The primary focus is to explore the language spoken by Adam and Eve, considering Adam's exceptionally long lifespan. When discussing the lineage that originated from Adam and Eve, which includes the descendants of Cain known as the Canaanites, as well as the lineage of Seth, referred to as the sides. It is important to note the intertwined nature of these two lineages. One is often regarded as virtuous, while the other is associated with malevolence. Over time, these lineages became affected by corruption following the entry of sin through Adam and Eve. This recurring theme of the fall of their descendants due to Adam's original sin continues to resonate among the various characters in the Old Testament. The mention of Adam and Eve always raises a series of questions, particularly regarding their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. People are naturally curious about the descendants and the diverse lineages that emerged from them. After all, Adam and Eve were the first humans, the ancient ancestors of all humanity, and the progenitors of the various races and ethnicities that exist in the world today. One common question that I have encountered frequently pertains to the language spoken by Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, as well as by their descendants from both the lineage of Cain and the lineage of Seth. It is worth noting that these two languages persisted even after the flood, only ceasing to be spoken altogether during the decline of humanity at the Tower of Babel. The sole biblical knowledge available regarding this particular language indicates that it was bestowed by God himself. It is believed to be the very language spoken by God, or possibly the language used by the angels to communicate with one another. God used this language to communicate with Adam, and he also taught it to Eve. Alternatively, it is suggested that Eve may have been inherently proficient in this language from birth. Numerous theories endeavor to ascertain the nature of this primordial language. Here, I will present some of these theories for consideration and eagerly anticipate everyone's opinions on these interpretations in the comments section. Towards the end of the video, I will address what the Bible truly reveals about this language and its possible nature. Now, let us delve into the diverse biblical linguistic interpretations concerning the original language of Adam and Eve. We shall commence by examining the Hebrew language and its connection to the language spoken by Adam and Eve. Many scholars of the sacred scriptures argue that the language of Adam and Eve persisted until the time of Moses and the Israelites, ultimately evolving into Hebrew. However, the solidity of this assertion's biblical foundation is questioned. Hebrew is an ancient language, approximately 3,400 years old, descended from the ancient Canaanite languages. In the Old Testament, it is referred to as the language of Canaan, as described in the book of Isaiah. This classification as a Canaanite language presents inconsistencies since linguistically, Hebrew originated from Canaanite rather than Mesopotamia, the land of Abraham's origin. Abraham hailed from Ur of the Chaldeans, where Sumerian and Akkadian were spoken. This is one of the debated explanations in group discussions focused on biblical linguistic matters and the origins of the world's first language. Some propose that Hebrew, in addition to Hebrew itself, could have been the original language spoken by Adam, Eve, and even Noah. Many scholars, including Jewish rabbis who rely on ancient traditions and texts, firmly assert that the original human language was ancient Aramaic. According to this interpretation, Aramaic was the means by which God communicated with Adam and Eve, and they passed it down to their descendants. Aramaic is an ancient Semitic language, akin to Arabic, and sharing similarities with ancient Hebrew. The Zohar, a significant text in Jewish tradition, states that Adam and Eve spoke Aramaic as their original language. Thus, alongside the theory suggesting Hebrew as the primordial language, there is also the interpretation that supports Aramaic as the original language. Additionally, a third hypothesis to consider is the notion of a language known by some rabbis and Jews as Lashon HaKodesh, or the holy or sanctified language. According to this perspective, Lashon HaKodesh would be a fusion of ancient Aramaic, Hebrew, or even ancient Phoenician, an amalgamation of these two ancestral languages. Therefore, the language spoken by Adam and Eve would be this combined form. Apart from these three theories, there are other linguistic proposals by various scholars, both Jewish and non-Jewish. Some suggest that the language of Adam and Eve could be Akkadian, according to certain theorists and scholars. While the Akkadian language is subject to interpretation regarding its potential as the language of Adam and Eve, some argue that the language of the ancient Akkadians could be the primordial language. Others propose that ancient Sumerian, the language of the Sumerian people, might also be a possibility as the original language. This can be attributed partially to the fact that Akkadian, being one of the oldest languages, has documented records dating back to the present day. These Akkadian records are the oldest known records in all languages worldwide. Similarly, the earliest records of the Sumerian language support this interpretation. As a result, some theorists consider the Akkadian language as the primary candidate, while others suggest the Sumerian language as a possible answer. Alongside these previous proposals, there exist alternative interpretations and theories regarding the language spoken by Adam and Eve. Scholars have extensively speculated about this subject throughout history, leading to a range of perspectives. One particular theory proposes that the original language could be ancient Egyptian, known as Kemet or Kamat in Egyptian. According to this viewpoint, ancient Egyptian would be the primordial language of humanity, preserved solely by the ancient Egyptians over the centuries. However, the language gradually faded over time due to various occupations by different peoples, including the Hyos who spoke Aramaic, Ugaritic, and Phoenician. Conquerors like the Greeks, who colonized Egypt, and other groups such as the Romans, also contributed to linguistic changes in the region. This multitude of influences and occupations resulted in the evolution and eventual disappearance of ancient Egyptian as a spoken language. According to this particular viewpoint, the original language spoken in the beginning could possibly have been ancient Egyptian. The arguments supporting this theory are essentially similar to those of Akkadian and Sumerian. This is due to the fact that hieroglyphs, which are the Egyptian script, are also considered one of the oldest writing systems in the world, dating back to ancient times. As a result, some individuals believe in the possibility of ancient Egyptian being the primal language of humanity. Furthermore, there is a group of scholars who propose the hypothesis of a Proto-Indian or a precursor to it as the primordial language. However, all these theories lack solid foundations and are merely speculative. It is important to note that none of them find support in biblical scriptures. The Bible or any ancient apocryphal books do not mention that the language spoken by Adam and Eve would be Hebrew, Akkadian, Aramaic, or Egyptian. In summary, these interpretations are theoretical and lack concrete evidence, according to the majority of scholars and established consensus. According to most experts, the original language used by Adam and Eve is known as the Adamic language. This name is derived from Adam, who is referred to as such because it is considered to be the primal language. It is distinct from Aramaic, Hebrew, Akkadian, Sumerian, Egyptian, or any other known language. Instead, it is specifically referred to as the Adamic language. It is also called the language of Noah, the Noetic language, or even the language of Enoch. Although there is a mention of an Enochian language, it does not specifically refer to the language spoken by Adam and Eve. It is one of the terms used to describe it in the Bible. This language is also known as the language of angels. The Apostle Paul mentions it in the New Testament, stating that even if he had the ability to speak the languages of men and angels, without love, it would be meaningless. Henceforth, this particular language is acknowledged as a celestial form of communication. Our knowledge regarding the sudden disappearance of this language from the earth spans from the time of Adam to the era of the Tower of Babel. Following the events at the Tower of Babel, humanity, descendants of Noah, commenced inheriting different languages. These languages were given to create confusion among the people at that time. This is why in Genesis 11, the account of the Tower of Babel, the term Babel in Hebrew signifies confusion or the gate of God in ancient Akkadian. Through our comprehension of the text, we gather that divine intervention took place, whereby each group descended from Shem, Ham, and Japheth, responsible for repopulating the world, was bestowed with their own unique. These languages varied among the branches and sub-branches of the descendants of Japheth, Ham, and Shem, along with some isolated languages that God inserted among the people involved in constructing the Tower of Babel. Due to their malicious intentions, God intervened to thwart their efforts, resulting in a drastic diversification of languages, leading to widespread confusion where individuals could no longer understand each other. From that point onwards, each group was dispersed to different regions of the planet, giving rise to the multiplicity of languages we are familiar with today. The original language spoken by Adam and Eve, known as Adamic, was eradicated from the earth by God himself, replaced by various other languages and dialects for Noah's descendants. This occurred during Noah's time, rather than in the eras of Adam, Seth, or Enoch, when Noah's sons and grandsons were involved in constructing the Tower of Babel. Consequently, God withdrew the original celestial language and introduced a multitude of languages to the people. In summary, the primordial language spoken by Adam and Eve was known as Adamic, the language of angels and the language of God himself. However, it is crucial to note that this language does not correspond to Hebrew, Aramaic, Akkadian, or any other known language today. It is a language that was removed from the earth through divine intervention. I express my gratitude to all those who have followed the video thus far. If you know anyone interested in the linguistic curiosities of the ancient Bible, please share this video with them. May everyone be under God's protection. Farewell for now, and until we meet again,